citizenship. Next one is feature of salient feature of constitution is single citizenship. Though the Indian constitution అనేది though it is federal and envisages a dual polity, center and states, okay, it provides for it has a dual polity, okay, and though it is federal, it provides for a single citizenship, that is Indian citizenship. In countries like USA, on the other hand, each person is not only a citizen of USA, but he is also a citizen of a particular state to which he belongs. Thus, he owns allegiance. He owns allegiance to both center and the state, and enjoys dual sets of rights. Okay, one conferred by the national government, and other conferred by the state government. Okay, he owes allegiance to both, and he enjoys dual set of rights. In India, all the citizens, irrespective of their state in which they belong to, or they are born, or they reside, they enjoy the same political and the civil rights of citizenship. They enjoy the same political and civil rights of citizenship all over the country, and no discrimination is made between them, between the citizens. Okay, despite the constitutional provisions for a single citizenship and uniform rights for all the people, India has been witnessing the communal rights, class conflicts, different classes madhya conflicts, class conflicts, caste wars, linguistic clashes, and ethnic disputes. So this means that the cherished goal of the constitutional makers to build a united and integrated Indian nation has not been fully realized. So, in spite of having a constitutional provision for a single citizenship and treating all the people as equal, having the same political and civil rights of citizenship all over the country, no discrimination is made in the communal rights, class conflicts, caste wars, linguistic clashes, ethnic disputes, ఇవన్నీ జరుగుతూనే ఉన్నాయి. Thus, the cherished goal of the constitutional makers to build a united and integrated Indian nation has not been fully realized. Then independent bodies. The Indian constitution not only provides for the legislative, executive and judicial organs of the government, and the central and state. వీటి మూడిటికే కాకుండా it also establishes certain independent bodies also. Okay, these certain independent bodies ని కూడా establish చేస్తుంది our constitution. They are envisaged by the constitution as the bulk works of democratic system of government of India. Okay, they are envisaged in the constitution as the bulk works of democratic system of the government of India. These are election commission. Okay, so the independent bodies are the election commission, comptroller and auditor election commission, COG, Union Public Service Commission, State Public Service Commission. So, election commission ensures free and fair elections to the parliament, the state legislatures, office of president of India and office of vice president of India. Free and fair elections దేనికి parliament, state legislatures, office of president of India and vice president of India. Comptroller or auditor general of India to audit the accounts of the central and state governments. He acts, comptroller and auditor general ఒక్కడే ఉంటాడు. He acts as the guardian of public purse. Acts as the guardian of public purse and comments on the legality and priority of the government expenditure. ఎంత లీగల్గా ఉంది గవర్నమెంట్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ అండ్ ద ప్రయారిటీస్ దేనికి ఇవ్వాలి గవర్నమెంట్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్లో అనేది చెప్పి he talks about it. Okay, he is the guardian of public purse and he comments on the legality and the proprietary. Legality and priority కాదు, legality and proprietary of the government expenditure. Then Union Public Service Commission అనేది it is there to conduct examinations for the recruitment to the All India services, and higher central services, All India services ki recruitment and higher central services, and to advise the president on disciplinary matters. And it also Union Public Service అంటే వాళ్ళ దగ్గర ఉన్న ఐఏఎస్లు ఏమైనా చేశారంటే ప్రెసిడెంట్ ఒకవేళ అడిగితే ఏం చేయాలి ఇలాంటి వాటితో అంటే ప్రెసిడెంట్కి దే కెన్ అడ్వైజ్ ఆన్ ది disciplinary matters to president. Then the State Public Service Commission in every state to conduct examination for the recruitment to the state services. To conduct examination in every state for the recruitment to the state services and to advise the governor on the disciplinary matters. The constitution ensures the independence of these bodies ఎందుకు ఇండిపెండెంట్ బాడీస్ అంటున్నాం? ద కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ it ensures the independence of these bodies through various provisions like security of tenure, fixed service conditions, expenses being charged on the consolidated fund of India, and so on. ఈ మూడు అవి it ensures their independence of these bodies. Then emergency provisions. The Indian constitution contains elaborate emergency provisions to enable the president meet any extraordinary situation effectively. To enable the president to meet any extraordinary situation effectively. The rationality behind the incorporation of these provisions is into the constitution is to safeguard. It is to safeguard the sovereignty, integrity, unity, and security of the country, the democratic political system, and the constitution. వీటన్నిటిని safeguard unity, integrity, and security of the country, sovereignty of the country, the democratic political system ని safeguard చేయడానికి, and constitution ని safeguard చేయడానికి all these emergency provisions have been incorporated. The constitution envisages 3 types of emergencies. National emergency, article 352, on the grounds of war or external aggression or armed rebellion, and state emergency, president's rule on the ground of failure of constitutional machinery in the states, article 356, or failure to comply with the directions of the center, article 365. Okay, state emergency, president rule 2 articles lo cheppunaru. On the grounds of failure of constitutional machinery in the states, that is article 356, or failure to comply with the directions of the center, article 365. Okay, then financial emergency is on the ground of threat to the financial stability or credit of India, article 360. ఇప్పుడుంది కదా అదే ఫినాన్షియల్ ఎమర్జెన్సీ ఆన్ ద గ్రౌండ్ ఆఫ్ threat to financial stability or credit of India, article 360. During an emergency, the central government becomes all powerful and the states go into the total control of the center. The center becomes all powerful and central government becomes all powerful, states go into the total control of the center during emergency. It converts the federal structure into the unitary one without any formal amendment of the constitution. So this emergency, it converts the federal structure into a unitary one without a formal amendment of the constitution. This kind of transformation of the political system from federal during normal times to unitary during the emergency times అనేది it is a unique feature of the Indian constitution. ఇంతకుముందు యూనిక్ ఫీచర్, నావల్ ఫీచర్ ఏం చూసాం? డిపిఎస్పి చూసాం. ఎమర్జెన్సీ ప్రొవిజన్స్ చేంజింగ్ ఫ్రమ్ యూనిటరీ federal structure to unitary structure during emergency is another unique feature of the constitution. Emergency provisions. 3-tier government. Originally the Indian constitution, like any other federal constitution, provided for only a dual polity and contained provisions with regard to organization and powers of the center and the states. Organization of the central and states, and power of the center and states. Then later on, 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Acts 1992 have added a third. These two constitutional amendments of 1992 added a third tier of government, that is local government, which is not found in any other constitution in the world. This is also the 3-tier government is also a unique feature of India, which is there in the constitution. Okay, actually it is envisaged in the constitution, which is not present in any other constitution of the world. The 73rd Amendment Act of 1992 gave constitutional recognition to the panchayats, that is rural local governments, by adding a new part 9 and a schedule 11 to the constitutions. Okay, they added a new part 9 add చేశారు constitution కి, and new schedule 11 to the constitution. Similarly, 74th Amendment Act of 1992 gave constitutional recognition to the municipalities, urban local governments, by adding a new part, that is part 9A, and a new schedule 12 to the constitution. Then cooperative societies is the next salient feature. Cooperative. So the last salient feature of Indian constitution is cooperative societies. Okay, ఇందాక ఇదే చెప్పారు 97th Constitutional Amendment Act అని. Cooperative societies. The 97th Constitutional Amendment Act of 2011 2011లో తీసుకొచ్చారు, జస్ట్ 9 years బ్యాక్. 97 కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ అమెండ్మెంట్ యాక్ట్ ఆఫ్ 2011. ఇట్ గేవ్ అ కాన్స్టిట్యూషనల్ స్టేటస్ అండ్ ప్రొటెక్షన్ టు ది cooperative societies. Give constitutional status and protection to cooperative societies. In this context, it made the following 3 changes in the constitution. In this context, 3 changes have been brought to the constitution. Okay, it made the right to form cooperative societies a fundamental right under article 19. Under article 19, the right to form cooperative societies is a fundamental right. It included a new directive principle of state policy. ఏం ఇంక్లూడ్ చేసింది న్యూ డైరెక్టివ్ డిపిఎస్పిని? ప్రమోషన్ ఆఫ్ కోఆపరేటివ్ సొసైటీస్. ఆర్టికల్ 43B. ఆర్టికల్ 19, రైట్ టు ఫార్మ్ కోఆపరేటివ్ సొసైటీస్ అ ఫండమెంటల్ రైట్. న్యూ డిపిఎస్పిని యాడ్ చేశారు. ప్రమోషన్ ఆఫ్ ది కోఆపరేటివ్ సొసైటీస్, ఆర్టికల్ 43B. and then it added a new part of 9B in the constitution, which is entitled as the cooperative societies. Okay, so 9B వచ్చి part 9 వచ్చి పంచాయత్ రాజ్, part 9A వచ్చి మున్సిపాలిటీస్, part 9B వచ్చి the cooperative societies అనేది part 9Bకి 9B was added to the constitution, which consists of the articles 243ZH to 243ZT. 243ZH to 243ZT. Then a new part 9B contains various provisions to ensure that cooperative societies in the country, they function in a democratic cooperative. To ensure that it has various provisions, this article, that is this part 9B, it has various provisions to ensure that cooperative societies in the country, they function in a democratic, professional, autonomous and economically sound manner. This is also specified in the DPSP. Okay, the cooperative societies, the country, they function in a democratic, professional, autonomous and economically sound manner. So it empowers the parliament. Okay, this part again, part 9B, it empowers the parliament in respect of multi-state cooperative societies. In respect of multi-state cooperative societies and the state legislatures in respect of other cooperative societies to make appropriate laws. So multi-state cooperative societies పైన ఎవరు law చేయొచ్చు? Parliament can make law. It has this part 9B has empowered the parliament to make laws on multi-state cooperative societies, and the state legislatures have been empowered to make laws on cooperative societies of the appropriate state. Then criticism of the constitution. The Constitution of India, as framed and adopted by the Constitution Assembly of India, has been criticized on the following grounds. Again, ఇందాక చెప్పారు ఇట్ ఈస్ అ బారోడ్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ అని చెప్పారు. ఇదే సేమ్ ద క్రిటిక్స్ ఒపైన్ దట్ మళ్ళీ విత్ బారోడ్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ అని చెప్తున్నారు. ద క్రిటిక్స్ ఒపైన్ దట్ ద కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్, the Indian constitution, it contains nothing new and original. Okay, they described it as a borrowed constitution అని చెప్తున్నారు. దీన్ని it consists of nothing new or original. It is a borrowed constitution or a bag of borrowings or a hodgepodge constitution or a frame patchwork, or it is a patchwork of several documents of the world constitution. And in the works చెప్పారు, it is a patchwork of several documents of world constitutions అని చెప్పారు. However, this criticism అనేది it is unfair and illogical. It is unfair and illogical. This is because the framers of the constitution made necessary modifications in the features borrowed from other constitutions. Okay, for their suitability to the Indian conditions. They made necessary modifications in their features for their suitability to the Indian conditions, at the same time avoiding their faults. ఆ ముందు కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ మేకర్స్, ఇప్పుడు జాపనీస్ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ వాళ్ళ ఫాల్ట్స్ అవాయిడ్ చేశారు, అవాయిడింగ్ దేర్ ఫాల్ట్స్ in the same time. So while answering the above criticism in the Constituent Assembly, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the chairman of the drafting committee, said, one likes to ask whether there can be anything new in the constitution framed at this hour in the history of the world. Okay, more than 100 years have rolled over when the first written constitution was drafted. It has been followed by many countries, reducing their constitutions to writing. What the scope of a constitution should be has long been settled. Similarly, what are the fundamentals of the constitution are recognized all over the world. Given these faults, all constitutions in their main provisions must look similar. The only new things, if there can be any, in a constitution framed so late in the day, are the variations made to remove the faults. Okay, variations made to remove the faults and to accommodate it to the needs of that country. To accommodate it to the needs of that country. The charge of producing a blind copy of constitutions of other countries is based, I am sure, on an inadequate study of the constitution. Means the constitution in inadequate study చేసి ఇలాంటి ఇది ఒక blind copy of the constitutions of other countries అని చెప్పి చెప్తున్నారు అన్నారు. Then a carbon copy of the 1935 Act. A carbon copy of 1935 Act. The critics said that the framers of the constitution have included a large number of provisions of the Government of India Act 1935 into the Constitution of India. Okay, large number of provisions of Government of India Act 1935 ni Constitution of India తీసుకున్నారు, and hence they called the constitution as a carbon copy of GOI 1935 Act. Or an amended version of the 1935 Act. Carbon copy or amended version of 1935 Act అంటున్నారు. For example, N. Srinivasan observed that the Indian constitution is both in language and in substance a very close copy of the Act of 1935. Similarly, Sir Ivor Jennings, a British constitutionalist, said that the constitution derives directly from the Government of India Act 1935, from which in fact many of its provisions are copied almost textually also it is copied and చెప్పారు. So further, P.R. Deshmukh, a member of the Constituent Assembly, he commented that the constitution is essentially the Government of India Act 1935 with only the adult franchise added అని చెప్పాడు. P.R. Deshmukh only adult franchise add చేశారు, except everything is same. Then the same D.R. Ambedkar answered the above criticism in the Constituent Assembly in the following way. As to the accusation that the draft constitution has produced a good part of the provisions of the draft constitution అనేది it has reproduced the draft constitution, it has reproduced a good part of the provisions of the Government of India Act 1935. I make no apologies. There is nothing to be ashamed of in borrowing. It involves no plagiarism. Okay, nobody holds any patent rights in the fundamental ideas of a constitution. What I am sorry about is that the provisions taken from the Government of India Act 1935 relate mostly to the details of administration. Okay, so that is why and next ఏం చెప్తున్నారంటే ఇది this is un-Indian or anti-Indian అని చెప్తున్నారు. It is un-Indian or anti-Indian. That is, according to the critics, the Indian constitution is un-Indian or anti-Indian because it does not reflect the political traditions and the spirit of India. It does not reflect the political traditions and the spirit of India. They said that the foreign nature of the constitution makes it unsuitable to the Indian situation, or it doesn't work in India. So in this context, K. Hanumantayya, a member of the Constituent Assembly, he commented that we wanted the music of veena or sitar, but here we have the music of an English band అని చెప్పాడు. So that was because our constitutional makers were educated that way. Okay, our constitution makers were educated in the westernized way. Similarly, Loknath Mishra, another member of Constituent Assembly, criticized the constitution as slavish imitation of the West. Okay, much more a slavish surrender to the West అన్నారు. Slavish imitation of the West, slavish surrendering to the West అని చెప్పాడు అనమాట లోక్నాథ్ మిశ్రా. Furthermore, Lakshmi Narayan Sahu, also a member of Constituent Assembly, observed that the ideals on which this draft constitution is framed have no manifest relation to the fundamental spirit of India. He said the ideals of this draft constitution, it doesn't have any relationship to the fundamental spirit of India. So this constitution would not prove suitable and it would break down soon after being brought into operation అని చెప్పాడు. Then un-Indian and anti-Indian కిది. Then an un-Gandhian constitution అని చెప్పారు. Un-Gandhian constitution, Then దాని గురించి ఏం చెప్పి according to the critics the Indian constitution is un-Gandhian because it does not contain the philosophy and ideas of Mahatma Gandhi. It does not contain the philosophy and ideals of Mahatma Gandhi అని చెప్పారనమాట. Then the father of Indian nation, they opined that the constitution should have been raised and built upon village panchayats and district panchayats. The constitution should have been raised or built upon the village panchayats and district panchayats. In this context, the same member of the Constituent Assembly, K. Harumantayya, said, this is exactly the kind of constitution Mahatma Gandhi did not want and did not envisage and చెప్పాడు. Then T. Prakasham, another member of Constituent Assembly, he attributed this lapse to Ambedkar's non-participation in the Gandhian movement and the antagonism towards the Gandhian ideas. So T. Prakash ఏం చెప్పారంటే this is attributed to the fact that Ambedkar did not participate in the Gandhian movement and antagonism towards Gandhian ideas. Then elephantine size, it is very big. The critics stated that the Indian constitution is too bulky and it is too detailed and contains some unnecessary elements. Sir Ivor Jennings, a British constitutionalist, observed that the provisions borrowed were not always well selected. The provisions which were borrowed were not always well selected, and that the constitution, generally speaking, it was too long and too complicated. Okay, in this context, H.V. Kamath, a member of Constituent Assembly, commented, the emblem and the crest that we have selected for our assembly is an elephant. Okay, the emblem and the crest that we have selected for our assembly is an elephant. So it is perhaps in consonance with that our constitution too is the bulkiest one that the world has ever produced. He also said, H.V. Kamath అని చెప్పాడు, he also said, I am sure the house does not agree that we should make the constitution an elephant one. Then paradise of lawyers. According to the critics, the Indian constitution is too legalistic and very complicated. Okay, legalistic and very complicated. They opined that the legal language and the phraseology adapted in the constitution, it makes it complex document. Okay, the same Sir Ivor Jennings called it a lawyer's paradise. In this context, H.K. Maheshwari, member of Constituent Assembly, she said, the draft tends to make people more litigious, more inclined to go to the law courts, less truthful and less likely to follow the methods of truth and non-violence. If I may say so, the draft is really a lawyer's paradise. It opens up vast avenues of litigations and will give our able and ingenious lawyers plenty of work to do so అని చెప్పి. Then similarly, P.R. Deshmukh, another member of Constituent Assembly, said that I should however like to say that the draft of the articles that have been brought before the House by Dr. Ambedkar seems to my mind to be far too ponderous, like the ponderous tomes of a law manual. A document dealing with a constitution hardly uses so much of padding. Okay, a document dealing with the constitution hardly uses so much of padding and so much of verbs and jepper. So perhaps it is difficult for them to compose a document which should be, to my mind, not a law manual, but a socio-political document, a vibrating, pulsating and life-giving document. But to our misfortune, that was not to be, and we have been burdened with so much of words which could have been very easily eliminated.